Our top story, pressures mounting on Chancellor Jeremy Hunt to deliver a voter-friendly budget in the middle of a recession. Well, talkTV's chief political commentator, Peter Cardwell, is back with us in the studio. Peter, can you just run us through how important this is for Jeremy Hunt on Wednesday?
Well, it's the last throw of the dice, really, Nicola, for the Conservative Party. They are 20 points behind. They have been for about 2 years consistently in those polls. Conservatives not ahead in a single poll for 2 years. And really, the big gamble has always been that the economy will turn things around for the Conservatives. Now, there's certainly some green shoots in that inflation is growing, yes, but down from 11.4% to 4%. But we are in a technical recession. So there are lots and lots of pressures on Jeremy Hunt, lots of backbenchers saying, you know, we need taxes to go down in some way. But the question is it going to be income tax? Is that going to be national insurance, which most pensioners don't pay, of course, because they're not working? So there are lots and lots of options that Jeremy Hunt says. He's keeping pretty tight-lipped in a lot of interviews he's done. He says it'll be prudent, it'll be well managed and all the rest of it. But is it really going to make a difference for the Conservatives?
We were hoping, we're still going to try and get Norman Baker, ex-Home Office Liberal Democrat, on down the line as well to join you, Pete. Can I go back to something we were talking about last hour? Because you must remember this is rolling news and people tune in and out.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of transparency nowadays. You know, the Chancellor over the weekend saying we might be doing this, we're going to be pragmatic, we're going to be prudent, we want to do this, we want to do that. You never heard about that in the old days. And I've got this real thing at the moment that the British people are far more aware than politicians. Is this openness a direct reaction to the fact that people in politics are beginning to realise that we're not the fools that they might have taken us for before? In terms of what I mean, pandemic, none of us would have thought we'd have... Did anybody in the pandemic, and, you know, when people were being paid to do nothing, did any of us go, that's going to be payable for 10 years? I didn't. Did anybody? I don't know. The thing is now, they can promise tax cuts, but a majority of people in this country are going to go, yeah, and what's the catch? That never happened before.
Well, Rishi Sunak was an incredibly popular politician when he was Chancellor and giving away money through furlough. We spent over £400 billion on the measures around the pandemic. Now, when we've got to pay some of that money back, I mean, paying down the debt is something the government has to do.
He wanted the job, didn't he? He wanted the job.
Well, he did, but the government says it has to pay down the debt, but at the same time, people are saying, well, actually, we want good public services. It's a really, really difficult balance in terms of what every single Chancellor has to do. But you're right, Jeremy. I think people are more switched on. There was a Chancellor historically who had to resign because some details of the budget got out, and you're meant to tell Parliament first. But the news management is that you leak out little bits, you keep the momentum going, you talk about, you test things as well. Maybe 2 weeks before the budget, we're saying, you know, oh, right, we're going to, the non-DOMS thing, classic example. Where
Can you just explain about this? Because this has been, if you're just tuning in, this has been Labour's flagship policy for about a year, Nick, hasn't it? We're going to cancel non-DOM status. If you don't live, you've got to pay more tax. Quite right. Don't think anybody disagrees with that. Then you ask them and they go, it's about £3 billion. Labour have said that will pay for absolutely everything they're doing, which doesn't add up.
They've spent the money.
And now the Tories are going to nick it.
They've spent the money about 7 or 8 times. People criticise Labour for that. But interestingly, yes, the non-DOMS thing, which is toxic for Rishi Sunak because his wife used to be a non-DOM, she's not anymore. This is something that the Conservatives, about a week ago, had said, right, they might actually cancel it, and they've been talking about it for a while. Now, that was a classic test balloon. See how people react to it. Are they happy with it? Are they not happy with it? See how their backbenchers react. That was generally received pretty favourably. I think they will actually axe that. But as you say, it raises £3 billion, which is, yes, sounds like a lot of money. We'd all love £3 billion. But in the scheme of things in public finances, that's not loads of money. But politically, it could be very, very important.
I'm just going to bring in Norman Baker now down the line. He is joining us.
Well done, Norm. Got it sorted, son.
Good morning, Norman.
Good morning to you.
Where are you, Butlins?
I'll behave.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. No, I'm in Lewis, which is the centre of the universe, as you know.
I just want to get your response, Norman, to a Savanta survey that says that 71% of all voters hold the Prime Minister and the Chancellor responsible for a recession. Is there anything that Jeremy can do on Wednesday to turn that around?
Me?
No, not this Jeremy, no. As far as the Chancellor's concerned, no, I don't think there is, because actually the idea that if you suddenly use huge amounts of money in tax cuts, it's going to help, it was shown to be very dangerous by Liz Truss in her time. You can fiddle around at the edges, which won't make any difference. But actually, I think most people want to see action to help the health service, to make sure that council taxes dealt with and potholes amended, all sorts of things. They're worried about the deterioration in public services. So 1p off here and there is not going to be the great delivery mechanism for the election for the Tory party.
And of course, Norman, the point about that, 1p, 2p, whatever, it takes months to be integrated, and then it takes months for you to feel the pinch. And I think you're right. People laugh at us, Pete, when we say this. If you ask people about potholes in their local community, if you ask them about bins, if you ask them about the NHS, not being able to see a GP, not being able to see a dentist. That's why I keep saying people can look further afield and be worried about what's happening in the world, but actually... Yeah. I'm sorry, Joe Public's thinking about how difficult it is for him and her.
All politics is local, as Bill Clinton said in the 90s. It's the economy, stupid. It's how people feel in relation to how much money they pay and the value for money they get from that taxation. And yeah, filling potholes, for example, is really, really important because people go out in their cars. Most people drive a car in this country. Most journeys are by car. And of course, that's a major thing that people really worry about. But I think it's interesting you mentioned that a lot of this takes a long time to be implemented. I actually think a lot of this will be what's called front-loaded, so happens quickly, basically. And what Jeremy Hunt might do is say, right, we're going to do a bit of a giveaway now for about the next year or so, and then the rest of the Parliament just put all that stuff onto Labour, just put all the difficult, public spending decisions.
Can he save...
three or 4 years down the line.
Is there any way, Norman Baker, that he can save the Tories, whatever he gives, whatever he takes, whatever he does? Because sitting here every day, it looks like a busted flush. If I'm honest, I'm not being cynical.
It is a busted flush, and this goes way beyond how much people have got in their pockets. People are just fed up with the government. It's been there a long time, and people have decided they want to change. And that zeitgeist, if you like, that mood, isn't going to change by what Jeremy Hunt does in the budget. So, I mean, the Tories are on borrowed time, I'm afraid. They're going to be eliminated from power at the next election, short of a miracle happening. So what Jeremy Hunt's going to try and do, I think, perhaps, is retain his reputation for sensible budget measures in line with chancellors up and down the decades. That's all he can really do.
And Peter, could we see any, not surprises, I suppose, if we're predicting it, but anything more radical than this 1 or 2
There'll
pence
always
cut?
be some sort of rabbit out of the hat. There'll be something that...
I've heard rumours about vapes.
Vapes, yeah. Well, I think if you're a vapor, you're going to get taxed basically by Wednesday. Declare your interest, Jeremy. Yeah, I think it's going to be bad for vapors this budget. But yes, there'll be something. There'll be something out of the hat. Maybe for young voters actually, because there seems to be very little in there for them. Maybe there's something in terms of stamp duty, house buying.
Take the vote away.
Take the vote away from them.
Yeah, take the vote away from them.
Okay.
Wow.
That would be quite radical.
I would have thought that increasing taxes on vaping would not be particularly popular with younger people.
No, I expect it wouldn't, but the government has had quite a crackdown on all forms of smoking and vaping in the last little while, so I'd imagine we'll see some taxation on that.
Can I ask you both about something that happened over the weekend that relates to George Galloway's victory in Rochdale last week? I'll start with you, Norman. His deputy, I didn't know his party was that advanced, a gentleman called Chris Williamson, who used to be a Labour MP, is under police investigation as we speak today for saying, and I'll quote, on Twitter, X, "The people of the world now know that Israel has forfeited the right to exist and that resistance to the genocidal Zionist entity is the only option." We know this is one of those subjects that's quite, heated and the debate becomes heated, but there can be no place, can there, in politics for a man with opinions like that? Come on.
We can't have people saying Israel cannot exist. That is way beyond the pale. I don't know why people who object... I mean, there's a legitimate case for criticising the Israeli government in how they're handling matters in Gaza. They are behaving quite badly, in my view.
Absolutely.
People are starving, 30,000 have died. But people can criticise the Israeli government without widening it to talk about Israel or the Jewish community. I don't know why people do that.
Pete?
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, your colleague Nadine Dorries, our colleague Nadine Dorries, for example, kicked Chris Williamson off her show on talkTV because he refused to call Hamas terrorists. He is someone for a long period of time has had pretty extreme views on Israel, and I'm not surprised that he's continued in this vein. Certainly what he has said, many people will find deeply offensive.
And what do you think this means for the scourge of anti-Semitism in the UK? The appointment of somebody like George Galloway. I mean, what it shouldn't do is take away from people who have got, like Norman said, genuine concerns about the Palestinians who are being killed in Gaza. And then my concern is that that's then going to be conflated with people who do support more extremism on both sides of the argument.
And this is what Rishi Sunak was kind of talking about on Friday in his address there. Certainly George Galloway would completely reject any suggestion that he is in any way anti-Jewish, but he has been very, very critical of Israel and Israel's right to exist previously in a number of things that he has said. Now, it'll be very interesting. He will be introduced in Parliament later this afternoon. There's actually been a little bit of trouble finding someone to hold the Bible, to sort of actually introduce him to Parliament. So it's probably going to be Sir Peter Bottomley, who's the father of the House. But usually you get an MP who's your friend to kind of help you. But wow. Sir David Davis, for example, was going to be that. But because of Chris Williamson's comments, David Davis has pulled out of that. But George Galloway, now with the letters MP after his name, has an absolute megaphone for his views, which, look, he's been elected, he is popular with the people of Rochdale, he won that democratically, but there are lots of people who have real problems with his views.
Very interesting. And let's not forget, let's just do a whole full circle. Tonight is the Celebrity Big Brother relaunch. And if you think George Galloway can be taken seriously, he was last seen dressed as a cat licking milk off Ruda Lenska's hand. True or false?
True. What a
That's
way to
the
finish the
MP for Rochdale. Listen, you get to work at Butlins, Norman Baker. Thank you for coming on this morning, my friend.
Thank you, Peter Cardwell, and the former government minister, Norman Baker. You give him some respect. Let's take.
We love him.
He's
got the best dress sense of anybody. Honestly, he's amazing.
I won't take it personally.
Look at him, old dull Cardwell, and you look at Norman Baker giving it large. Brilliant.
You two are dressed as each other.
Have you been in my room again?
I'm about to.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm going to sleep on your sofa.
Moving on.